Yes.
Very good, thank you. Mr. Rocco, you may proceed with your questions.
Thank you. Fiona, may I ask that if you don't understand one of my questions, or if you're confused, that you stop me and let me know rather than guess at what I'm asking?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I think you testified that when you came from California, you were, I guess, living in between two places. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And what are those two places?
The Pueblo residence of my stepfather and my mother, and the residence Charlie and Stephen occupied in Kula.
And just to clarify, because I think I got it wrong, which one did you spend 30% of your time at, and which one did you spend 70% of your time at?
70% of the time I was in Pueblo, and 30% of the time I was in Kula.
Okay, so would that be that, to say that 30% of your time was spent with Carly, living at Carly and Stephen's place?
30% of the time, yes, I was staying with Charlie.
And that's when you testified that you were, I guess, staying on their couch in the living room, is that
Yes.
accurate? And that's, did you testify that one of your other siblings was also living in that residence, the Kula residence at that time period as well?
Yes.
And who would that be?
That was my younger sibling, Phaedra Weiss.
And how old were you at the time?
16.
And how old was Phaedra?
13.
Now, I take it that, well, so both of you were minors at the time.
Yes.
Is there a reason why you weren't able to stay at your mom's or dad's, or mom's or stepdad's?
Not particularly. We had bedrooms there. We just wanted to spend time with our sister.
And that was okay with your parents, for you as a minor to live with Stephen and Carly,
Yes.
as you desired to do?
Yes.
There was no caution of, hey, you know, that's you should be living under our roof, you're a kid still, anything along those lines?
There was at times when we would stay up there too long, our parents would want us to come home. They didn't want us staying up there during school nights or nights like that, but we would get away with it sometimes.
So you knew you were getting away with something, or you considered yourself getting away with something when you were doing that?
Well, I mean, parents usually want you to stay at home on a school night so that you can do your homework and do things properly. I mean, my sister was very motherly, made sure we got homework and stuff done and had clothes for the next day. So it wasn't like we were getting away with anything necessarily. It was more along the lines of, it was just kind of like a fun thing to stay at our sister's, more so than with our mom and dad out in Villa.
Are you saying that when you spent your 70% of the time at your mother's, that she would go so far as to have your clothes ready and stuff for school?
She did laundry.
No, but I think you testified that she had gotten it all ready for you and stuff?
No.
So she did your laundry at least?
Yes.
Now, wouldn't it be accurate to say that when you moved in with Stephen and Carly, that at first Stephen kind of took on a little more of a fatherly role, trying to tell you stuff like what not to do, right?
No.
He never tried to put you in check as far as things you shouldn't be doing on a school night, for example?
There was one occasion.
Okay, and what was that?
There was the one occasion when I tried to pop in a DVD to watch Robot Chicken, which was kind of it was on Adult Swim. It was a show that...
I mean, when you
adults
talk
would
about
watch.
an adult kind of movie, are we talking about like sex?
No,
sex
just humor and...
adult humor?
Yes.
So at least in that example, you're saying that Stephen was trying to dissuade you from watching inappropriate material?
That one time, yes, when I first moved out.
Because at some point you started rebelling against him trying to tell you what to do, right?
Judge, objection. It's argumentative and goes beyond the scope.
It's who
This
this
is beyond the scope, the objection is sustained.
Judge, she testified about living with them. I'm questioning her living conditions.
It's beyond the scope.
The court's ruling will stand.
What about your relationship with your sister when you first move over and lived with them?
When I first moved over, it was fine. It was like we were being sisters, having fun. Occasionally, she would give me hard knocks, just make sure I was behaving properly.
You'd agree with me that she's some years older than you, right?
Yes.
How many years older?
I'd say 7 or 8.
Did that create some problems in your relationship while you were living with Stephen and Carly?
Slightly. She wanted to take on a motherly role, and I still looked at her as an older sister. So when she would try and tell me what to do, we got in sisterly disputes.
Well, it was more than that. I mean, bottom line is that she tried to push you out of her life, right?
There's objection. There's no testimony in this.
That's why I'm asking the question.
With respect to that particular ground, I will overrule the objection.
You'd agree with me that at some point
Then it
she
calls
was
for,
actually trying
when
to...
it calls for argument then.
The objection on that ground is overruled as well.
At some point, Carly's actually trying to push you out of her life, right?
I wouldn't say push me out of her life. We were just distancing ourselves because it was becoming hurtful.
Becoming what?
Hurtful.
And why was it becoming hurtful?
There's objection. This calls for hearsay.
The objection is sustained.
You agree with me that at some point you were attending events, the same events that she was attending, right?
On occasion, yes.
This stuff like raves, right?
I believe as a total I went to 3.
That she would have been there?
Yes.
Okay, what are raves?
There's objection. This goes beyond the scope.
It's just questioning out her testimony.
There was no testimony in this.
She
The
just
objection is
testified about it.
sustained.
And the fact is that at some point, Carly got mad at you because you were starting to take her friends at places like the raves away from her.
Judge, again,
Incorrect.
beyond objection, this goes beyond the scope. This is also based on hearsay. And there's no evidence of this.
The objection is sustained.
Thank you.
Judge, if it's sustained because there's no evidence of it, I have a
Because
proffer.
it is beyond the scope of direct examination.
You keep saying that Carly was a motherly person. You'd agree with me that she was motherly to you, right?
Yes.
Now, that doesn't mean that you just asked for everything from her, right?
No.
It means that she kept offering things to you, right?
She provided, yes.
Now, you'd agree with me that that's the same approach that she had with Stephen, that it was her offering to do things with Stephen, right? Or for Stephen.
Yes.
Because she loved him.
Yes.
She would do anything for him, right?
Yes.
So when we hear all this talk about Stephen using her, the reality is that Carly was the one offering to do stuff for him.
Judge,
right?
objection. That is pure argument.
The objection is overruled. You may answer the question.
Can I hear the question again?
When we hear all this talk about Stephen using Carly, it was more that Carly would offer to do stuff for Stephen, right?
Again, it's based on hearsay and it's argument.
The objection is overruled. You may answer the question.
I personally don't recall ever saying that Stephen used Charlie. I just recall personally stating that Charlie was motherly and did provide, and she knew what people needed and what they wanted. And when she saw that people needed or wanted something, she would do it. She was that kind of person.
Okay, so you having lived with Carly and Stephen for a significant amount of time would not say that Stephen was using her, right?
Not directly.
In fact, at its heart, and let's bring up the topic of marijuana. At its heart, they were partners, weren't they?
Partners in...
Judge, objection is vague and ambiguous.
The objection is sustained.
You know they had a shared interest of marijuana, right?
I was never divulged directly about their connections to marijuana. I never asked questions about it.
So your testimony is that you were not involved in marijuana back then?
No.
You drink back then?
Judge,
Yes.
objection 403.
The objection is sustained.
I move to strike that question and answer, Your Honor.
The motion to strike is granted.
You testified that at some point while you were living with them, they behaved more like roommates, right?
Yes.
And that's your opinion having lived with them during that time period, correct?
30% of the time I was there, yes.
They slept in separate rooms?
At a time, yes.
Now, relative to Carly providing for Stephen, you'd agree with me that into Carly's pregnancy, you know that Stephen was giving her money even for maternity clothes, right?
Objection, Your Honor, like a foundation.
That's why I'm
The
asking.
objection is sustained.
That's not on.
We'll touch on your testimony about the dog. You remember testifying about Nala?
Yes.
The first contact that you had with Nala would have been February 11th when you went out to Nahiku to pick him up. Is that accurate?
That was late Tuesday night, yes.
So would it be fair to say that you would have no personal knowledge as to the condition of that dog any time prior to when you saw it on February 11th?
Judge, objection, that is vague at this point at any time.
At any time before?
I'll overrule the objection. You may answer the question.
Anytime before, meaning,
Any time before going up and picking up the dog from the
so
person
that day.
you picked it up from, February 11th, right? Anytime before then, you'd agree with me, you have no personal knowledge as to the condition of that dog, right?
No, that's incorrect, because I did spend time with Charlie, and Charlie did have Nala with her.
Okay, you're right, my bad.
Objection
In
vague.
between,
Sir,
That was my objection vague, Your Honor. She didn't know which time
No,
period
and
he
she
was
was-
talking to.
Let's just get it clarified.
Between the last time you saw Carly and this February 11th when you picked up the dog, it would be accurate to say that you have no personal knowledge as to the condition of Nala during that time period.
Correct.
And this happened on the evening of February 11th, or the late night of February 11th, according to your testimony that you went out?
Correct.
And that would have been with Adam Gaines?
Correct.
On that evening of February 11th, what were you doing prior to doing that?
I was at work.
Up to what time?
11 p.m. is when we close.
And where did you, I guess, meet up with Adam?
At the Haiku residence we were living at currently.
Now, you'd agree with me that as Adam came back, Stephen was dropped off.
I don't understand the question.
Would you agree with me that when Adam came to pick you up, he was coming back with Stephen from somewhere?
I would not know.
Okay, so you came after Adam had been at the house?
Yes.
So your testimony would be that Adam was at your house sometime,
Before I had arrived.
and you would have arrived sometime, what, about 11:15-ish? Well, I guess, let me write that down. How long a drive between, is it Ono Gelato where you were working?
Yes, it's now known as Paella Gelato. It's located in Paella.
And they were open till, or you worked there until 11 that night?
Yes.
And how long would the drive be from there to the Haiku residence?
The drive usually estimated about 15 minutes, so I would have arrived sometime after 11:15.
Are you guesstimating, or was there something that makes you certain?
I
that it
worked
was-
there regularly on nights, so I knew about the time I usually arrived home, depending on how busy it was, what time we closed there, and how long it took me to get home.
Okay, so you get home. Can you describe what happens between the time you get home and the time that you leave to go get the dog?
I arrived, and they said that they were going to go out to Nahiku Marketplace to pick up Nala.
Who's they?
Adam had said he was going to go out to Nahiku Marketplace to pick
Okay,
up
when you
Nala.
say they, though, you mean only Adam?
Adam was talking about it, or Adam was saying he was going to be the one to go pick her up, and they were discussing it between Johnny and my mother, Kim.
Okay, but Adam was insisting that he was going to be the one picking it up?
They had agreed mutually that he would be the one to go pick her up.
Did you see Stephen at the house?
I did not.
And so, how long did that discussion take?
Objection, lack of foundation, speculation.
You were there.
Mr. Sage.
You were there when Adam was talking about going to Nahiku, right?
Yes.
How long did you guys talk about that before actually going out to Nahiku?
I had arrived probably towards the end of the conversation, and then I had agreed to go along with Adam so that he wasn't driving alone.
Is there a reason for that? That you didn't, did you not want him to drive alone, or?
I was just worried that he was tired. Everybody was tired at that point from searches, and I didn't want any accident to occur on the way.
Wouldn't you have been tired?
I was used to late nights. I was more of a night owl back then, so I was more awake at the time.
What time do you guys get back from picking up the dog?
I can only give an estimate. I wasn't exactly checking the time from when I got back. I went to bed after we had picked up Nala, so I could guesstimate it would be sometime very early in the morning of the 12th, 1:30.
So was it just a matter of going out there, picking it up, and then coming right back, or did you
Yes.
guys spend some time there?
No, we went out, picked her up, and came back. I know Adam had discussed something with the gentleman who was holding Nala, and I wasn't a part of that. But it wasn't more than 5 minutes of a discussion.
And so whose car did you folks take?
We took Adam's truck.
I guess on your way or on your way back, did Adam suggest that you folks look at any place? Search for any
This is
place?
based on hearsay.
The objection is sustained.
At some point, did you attempt to distance yourself from Stephen in your life?
Yes.
Okay, when was that? Well, let me ask you this. What do you remember, I guess, what year and approximate date?
2011.
Now, would it be fair to say that at least starting from that date, it was pretty much that Stephen was hated by all of your family?
I wouldn't say
Judge, objection
hated.
is calls for speculation, also calls for
The
hearsay.
objection is sustained.
Thank you.
Do you know how your family feels about Stephen?
Yes.
Okay, how do you know that?
Objection, Your Honor, this calls for hearsay, which is going to
The
state hearsay.
objection is sustained.
Thank you.
I'm laying a foundation.
It's based on hearsay, Judge.
The rule stands.
Stephen allowed at your family's house?
Nope.
Would it be fair to say that that was from 2011?
Yes.
Would it be fair to say that it was from before 2011?
Yes.
Was Carly allowed in your mother's house?
Yes.
At all times?
No.
When wasn't she allowed in your mother's house?
When her and Johnny were not getting along.
And when was that?
I can't give a specific day. They would be good, and then they would be upset. It was a roller coaster.
Well, you'd agree with me that as of the date that Carly went missing, she wasn't allowed in your mother's house, right?
Yes.
Now, how long had it been prior to when she went missing that she was not allowed in your mother's house?
I can't remember the specific date, but I feel like it was a couple of months. Probably more than that.
And you know that's because Carly would cause scenes.
Judge, objection, this calls for hearsay.
The objection is sustained.
Were you present at any of the incidents between Johnny and Carly that resulted in that relationship?
Yes.
Can you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury or describe one of them?
Judge, objection, one, this goes beyond the scope, two, it's based on hearsay.
It's a personal observation.
Again, it's beyond the scope.
As to the beyond the scope of direct examination, the objection is sustained.
Would it be fair to say at some point you became infatuated with Stephen?
Judge, objection, we discussed this in the motion in the meeting.
I think counsel's fair approach.
Fiona, were you ever questioned by police relative to what you're testifying here today about?
Yes.
And would that have been back in March with Detective Hamilton?
I believe so, yes.
When you spoke with Detective Hamilton, isn't it true that before you folks started recording your interview, you folks talked about what you guys were going to talk about?
Very vaguely, I believe they had said that they were going to question me about some cell phone contact.
So you recall talking about some cell phone contact prior to the recorded interview?
Not about it, they just gave me the subject of what the interview was going to be of.
And about how long did you guys talk before it went recorded?
Briefly, as we were walking to the interview room.
Okay, so I guess, where did he walk with you to that interview room from?
From inside the building and down the hallway.
This is it right here.
And you recall him leading you over to the interview room or something? And that's when that's where he was talking to you?
He was talking to me in the hallway, and when we entered the interview room, that's when he turned on the recorder.
And this would have been on March 4th, 2014?
I can't say in confidence what date it was.
Okay, would looking at the transcript of that interview refresh your recollection?
Probably.
May I? Okay, may I approach, Your Honor?
You may do so.
I guess, can I make sure by asking you whether that's the transcript of the interview on March 4th that we're referring to?
Yes.
Okay. And so is that that's the interview that you're talking about, going into the interview room, and it was only that walk that you guys talked about stuff before going on in the recorder?
We talked about the subject of what we were going to be interviewed, what I was going to be interviewed for.
And according to you, that's happening at the police station?
I believe so, yes.
Would taking a look at that transcript refresh your recollection? Well, could you be mistaken as to where that interview took place?
I was, I know I was interviewed twice while Dodds was present, and one was at my residence and one was at the police station. And I believe this is,
Well, let me stop you, because you just said that that's the interview that we're talking about, right?
Judge, objection, not giving Ms. Weiss a chance to explain. She's trying to talk about 2 interviews, and I would ask that she have time to explain her response.
We will let her complete her response.
Thank you.
yes, I was mistaken.
You were mistaken because the interview you're talking about, where you had a pre-interview interview, was conducted at your house, right?
Judge, objection states facts, not in evidence.
When you looked at that,
Are there any questions? Which one?
was your recollection refreshed as to where the interview actually took place?
Yes,
And where was that?
that was at my house.
So when you go through this whole scenario that this pre-interview, this vague, short pre-interview interview happened at the Wailuku police station just during a walk, it actually took place at your house, right?
The pre-interview that you allude to at my house did not occur. We sat down in the living room and they told me that they'd be recording our interview, and they pressed the record button and it was recorded.
And now you remember that.
Yes. I was
May I
getting the
approach you?
two confused.
May I approach you on it to get the...
You may use it.
Are you saying you had a different interview with Detective Dodds as well?
The first interview, the one that my memory has been refreshed on March 4th, was at my house. I had still been working up until that point, and they had asked me if I could sit down for an interview with them to get a grasp on...
So I'm going to object. It's becoming a narrative. Move to strike the hearsay.
I think she's trying to respond to the question by remembering back.
It contains hearsay.
That portion of the response, which is the last portion relating to what was said to the witness, I'll sustain the objection.
Because you agree that... Oh, sure. Okay. Now, you testified about having a gathering with family members as well as a Rex.
You know, it sounds like you're going into a different area, and I'm assuming so we'll take a recess at this time. Then we convene at 1:30. Thank you very much.